Now, once you have understood the 5 types of chord, you're ready for the next step within the study of harmony, and that is studying the harmonized scale. The harmonized scale is basically taking a simple major scale and transforming it into 7 chords, just using those 7 notes. A scale normally has 7 notes. There may be scales with less or more notes, but within our natural or simple harmony, we're going to consider the scale of 7 notes. So the very basic scale that we usually learn first is the major scale. There's still question and talks about if this is a cultural tendency that we simply learn to like from the music that we've heard since we were born. And some people think there are other explanations to why the major scale sounds good. But for now, all that matters is that we know it. So here we go. Major scale is like this. The major scale is formed by 2 whole steps, 1 half step, 3 whole steps, and 1 more half step. So it's usually known as whole, half, whole, half. If you take this scale now, and from each note of the scale you build a chord, then you're going to build what we call a harmonized scale, and that is the same thing as if referring to a tonality. So let's take the C major scale and let's build the 7 chords. How do we build a chord? We build by stacking thirds, and that way we're going to create those structures of tonic, third, fifth, and seventh. If you do this starting on each one of these notes, you're going to get a different chord in the end, and that's going to be our harmonized scale. So let's do it. From C, here's the major scale. So I'm going to take the first note. I'm going to skip 1, take the next, that's my third. Then I skip 1 and take the next, that's my fifth. Skip 1, take the next, that's my seventh. So it's like three thirds stacked upon each other. Tonic, a third. The third of the third is the fifth, and the third of the fifth is the seventh. So you were stacking thirds, piling thirds on top of each other. So we get this. And now let's identify this. What within the structures, from the structures that we've learned before, from the 5 chord structures, which one is this one? What interval is this first? It's a major third, so we know we have a major chord. Now, perfect fifth, and what kind of a seventh is this? It's just half a step from the octave. We know it's the major 7, and we can also know it by sound. It wants to go, is the tendency that it calls for. So the first chord of the harmonized scale is the major 7th chord. And if we analyze this scale that goes with it, starting on the same note, C, what intervals do we have? Major 2nd, major 3rd. This is called a perfect 4th, perfect 5th. This is called the major 6, that you know is the major 7, and the octave. This is called an Aeolian scale, and it's the first thing that we know as Greek mode. Every one of the 7 chords is going to have a respective scale, and these are called the Greek modes. So it's very good, very important that you learn these, and it might take you some time to memorize. So the best thing to do that I would advise you is to write them down on a piece of paper. Just the process of writing something down is already good for you to absorb the information. So the first mode is the Ionian, and it's made of those intervals that I just said. Major 2nd, 3rd, 4, 5, major 6, major 7, and tonic. Now, if you take the same scale and you start from the 2nd note, and now it's going to be a different perspective, a different point of view. The same notes exactly, but if starting from the 2nd note, now the 2nd note becomes 1. So the same notes as before. I'm going to go 1 note more. What is this? Now let's stack the thirds. Let's look for the thirds and pile them up. 1, 2, 3. That's my first third. And then piling another third, which is finding the 5th. What is this 5th? Is the perfect 5th. And minor third. So we know we have a minor triad. Let's go 1 more step. Finding 1 more third above from the 5th. Or, what is this note related to this root? We know it. It's the minor 7. So what do we have when you have a minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and minor 7? What is this kind of chord? It's the minor 7 chord. So you write down on a piece of paper. First, you can write it as a Roman numeral. Write big 1, and then major 7, you write as a 7 and a big M, as you can see on the screen. And then on the second chord, you can write a small m, which refers to minor, and the number 7, which is minor 7 or flat 7. So now let's look at the scale. The same scale that you had on the C major. If you now do it from this root, let's look at the intervals. Major 2nd, flat 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6, and minor 7. This is what you call your Dorian scale. So you should rewind the video if you need, write down these intervals. That's what I call the DNA of the scale. It's basically the note sequence or the code that produces its emotion. The Dorian is an emotion. That's the emotion of Dorian. I have a video about the psychology of music where I talk about how important it is for you to try to search for emotions with your mind from your first impression of sound quality. The Dorian sound quality is this one. And you can just imagine some kind of a scene, even if it's silly, but whatever scene you imagine is going to help you fixate the emotion to the chord. And you become a better musician if you can listen to music and you know what mode is being used. So for example, here, when I think about this, I could say something silly, but it kind of feels like I see like a detective who is searching for a clue or something like that. So that's just a Dorian impression. So when starting the C major scale from the E note and considering the E note as now being your 1, still with all the same notes, you're going to have this. And going. Now let's stack the thirds up. Let's build the 1, 3, 5, and 7. The first one is 1. That's the 3rd. What is this we've seen before? It's a minor 3rd, right? So you can use this moment to reiterate and help you memorize that this shape is the minor 3rd. And now going on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at this shape. Same as this sound is the perfect 5th. Listen to the sound of the perfect 5th. Going to the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a minor 7 chord. So you can write on your piece of paper there that the 3rd chord is a minor 7 chord. And all these chords are a whole step apart. The 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd. Let's look at the scale now. The C major scale played starting from the E note. So I'm going to use now a different placement of the C major scale here. Starting from C, I'm going to use this fingering. And I'm going to now analyze from the E note. So I have this. So what intervals do I have? This is the first time we've seen. This interval is called flat 2, also known as flat 9, because the 9 is the same as the 2. And now here, notice 1.5 step of distance is the minor 3rd. And then I have the perfect 4th, and I have perfect 5th, flat 6. Whereas the Dorian was like this, was just regular 6 or natural 6 or major 6, all the same thing. This scale has a flat 6. This is called the Batman interval because it goes, it's the soundtrack of the Batman. So that's how I learned to hear this minor 6. Every time I hear this being done in any instrument, I relate to that soundtrack and I can know it's a flat 6. So next interval, that's the minor 7. Finally going to the octave. So this DNA, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, and flat 7, is the DNA of the Phrygian scale. And this is the sound it has. This is the one used in flamenco. flamenco, the Phrygian is in major, but in the natural state, the Phrygian is a minor. Okay, now the next mode is called the Lydian mode, and it's like taking the C major scale, starting from the 4th note. And then you go a full octave. So this is called the 4th degree, Lydian. And let's stack those thirds up. Let's see what we get. Let's analyze that. Let's use this fingering right here. Well, no, let's use it here. That's the C major scale. Let's look at it from F. 1, 2, 3. What do we have? It's a major third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do we have? It's a perfect 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What do we have here? It's a major 7. So we got a major 7 chord. So that's your major 7 chord. And let's look at the scale now. 1, major 2nd, major 3rd. That's a new interval that we hadn't seen yet. It's the sharp 4, no longer the perfect 4th. Now we have a sharp 4, a very specific sound. The sharp 4 was said from the church in centuries ago to be from the church to be the interval of the devil, because this is the most dissonant interval there is, the sharp 4. And then you have the perfect 5th, the major 6, and the major 7. So what you have is a major 7 chord. And what makes this mode stand out is that characteristic of the sharp 4. If I know this is my major 7 chord, as I showed you the shapes before, this is the major 3rd, this is the major shape, major 7 right there. I know that the 4th would have been just half step up from the 3rd, and the sharp 4 is that sound right there. So that's the quality of the Lydian mode. Now, the next mode that we're going to get, if we go from the C major scale and start from the 5th note now my 5th note is going to be 1, and I'm going to think about it like this. What kind of chord do I get? Let's stack the thirds up. Let's look at it from here. C major scale again. 2 octaves. So from the G note, here I go. 1, 2, 3. I got a major 3rd. A perfect 5th. And that's a minor 7. Remember the minor 7 right here? Being the octave, major 7, minor 7. So I have a dominant chord. That's the first time it appears. And it's the only time it happens in the natural harmonized scale. The dominant chord is unique. It only happens once and happens on the 5th degree. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my 5. And that's a dominant chord right there. The dominant chord is the one that creates tension for resolution. Listen. Tension, resolution. So let's look at the scale. 1, major 2nd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, major 6, and minor 7. So that's called the Mixolydian scale. You should write that DNA on your book there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and flat 7. So that's the Mixolydian scale. The next chord now, the next mode, the 6th one, it's going to be off of the A note because we go on the C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our new root, or new 1. Let's play the C major scale starting on this note. It would be this. Okay, so that's the C major scale starting on A. Let's look at the intervals we found. That first interval, just 1.5 steps. It's the minor 3rd. I did not show you how to find the roots from the G string because it's a higher note. But you can use this moment right now to understand that this is a minor 3rd and this is a major 3rd. So that's the minor 3rd. So we have a minor chord. How about the 5th? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have E. E. So A and E is a perfect 5th. So I have a minor 3rd and a perfect 5th. That's a minor chord. And now the 7th. In the C note, the C major scale, the note is G, which is the 7 of A. That's a minor 7. So it's a minor 7 chord. That's it. The sixth mode is a minor 7. So write that down on your paper. Also write on your paper the distance between the chords from the third to the fourth. It's just a half a step, because that's how the C major scale goes. So from the fourth to the fifth is a whole step. From the fifth to the sixth is another whole step. C major scale starting on A minor, you're going to get this. Let's look at the DNA. Major second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, flat sixth, the Batman interval. And minor 7. It's the Aeolian scale. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, and flat 7. That's the Aeolian scale. So that's the Aeolian mode. Now, the last one is going to be the 7th mode. Let's look at the C major scale from the 7th note. Oh, I could just do this. Go back 1, right? And play the C major scale starting on 1 behind, which is the 7th. Let's look at the chord structure. 1, 2, 3. What is this? It's a minor third. And then the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look, it's the first time you have in the whole harmonized scale. It's the only time that you find the flat 5 as opposed to the perfect fifth, flat 5. So that gives us a diminished triad. Now let's see if this diminished triad is going to be a half diminished chord or a fully diminished chord from our 5 types of chord. Let's look at the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a minor 7. So it's a half diminished chord, as I explained before. 1, flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7. That's your half diminished chord. All right. Now let's look at the scale. Starts with a flat second. That's very unusual here. Just like the Phrygian mode, you have the flat second, flat third, perfect fourth, flat 5, flat 6, minor 7, and tonic. So that's called the Locrian scale. That's the sound. It's a very dramatic sound, like something is hopeless. All right, so that's the Locrian mode. So this is something that there's no way around it but to memorize it. You have to dedicate a little time to memorize this. It's really good for you to write these degrees in a piece of paper and then glue them over your desk or on your bedroom door or whatever, so that you can look at it every now and again. And it's going to get even easier because this information is going to start to repeat. It seems like it's hard, but it's really not. It's a small world. It's going to start repeating as you analyze music. And we're going to, in this course, towards the end, we're going to analyze a few pieces from the Brazilian repertoire, and we're going to look at them from this very perspective, and you're going to start seeing all these chords in action. So it's going to be very fun. So for now, just take some time to absorb all this knowledge. Try to play these scales, and as you play, listen for the sound of the intervals. In order for you to listen for the sound of the intervals, you have to know what intervals you're playing at every time. So if I'm playing the Lydian scale, I'm playing the third, sharp 4, perfect fifth, and so on. I want you to turn the light on your brain, turn your musical light on, and start visualizing and hearing everything and identifying things. And it's going to feel like a child learning how to navigate through the world. It's a beautiful process.